Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Chopping It Up with Ramel. No notes, straight from the throat. Hey, listen, before we get started, we got a couple of things to talk about. But first and foremost, I want to talk about, for this season, this would be the last episode. This would conclude the first season of Chopping It Up with Ramel. No notes, straight from the throat. Listen, I want to thank everyone, and I mean everyone, who have shown me support through this first season, whether it was friends, family members, or even strangers. I mean, your comments, your likes, your views, your suggestions, your thoughts, your encouragement. I just want to thank you all, from a good friend on the job, Maury, to Skip, to the Wooded family, to my family, to Eddie Ness, Jeannie, my niece G-Star. I just want my son. I want to thank everybody, my family, everybody who's given me encouragement. Skip, who I grew up with. I mean, I can't list everybody. General Ali, he sent me something that I never got an opportunity to use. I was trying to find a way to do so. I just want to thank everybody who encouraged me far and near, family and friends, co-workers, strangers. I met a few friends that from other blog sites such as ESPN.com. Just want to thank you all. So this will conclude the first season. However, I will be back at the start of football season sometime during preseason when they go to camp. I'll pick up from there. But since this is my last show, let me get to it. But again, I thank you all. I want to talk about a couple of things, starting with Summer League, touch on the Knicks, and maybe say something in football. But let me get started. First of all, I want to shout out or make reference to all of those that when they talk about Summer League, they talk about Summer League as if it's not important. They talk about Summer League as if it shouldn't be taken seriously. Listen, maybe I'm of the minority when I say this, but I don't think there's any league that ball players who has aspirations or dreams of playing in the NBA should be taken lightly. Whether that's the AAU, to high school, to college, playing overseas, D-League, G-League, or Summer League. Summer League is a mandatory camp that takes place in the NBA schedule. It's a showcase for those who've been drafted, those who weren't drafted, those who hasn't given up on their dreams, to have maybe a 4 to 6 week period where they could come in and play for various teams and conduct themselves on an interview, on which it is, to get to the next level. When I listen to people who's excited about Lonzo Ball, and rightfully so, and then I hear people that say, this is only Summer League, what are we getting excited for? Listen, first of all, he's playing among people of his peers. He's playing among people that's probably on the same level as him. And I understand maybe 90% of the people he played with will never reach the NBA. Regardless of the numbers that he achieved, he gave us some oohs and ahs and some reason to be hopeful that this guy is going to be playing in the NBA for the next 15 years. And if I'm the Laker brass, I make sure that he dons the Laker uniform for the next 15 years. The guy has shown us great vision, great leadership, and the ability to play this game on a high level. There's never been a player to ever have a triple-double in a summer league. He had 2 in one camp. He was named the MVP of the summer league and didn't even play in a championship game. what I've seen of this guy is enough that he's going to be a very good player in this league. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised in his 4th, 5th year, he flirts with averaging a triple-double. If there's one knock on him for me, it's that he's not aggressive enough going to the basket with the ball. I think in today's league, you need a point guard that when there's nothing there, he's going to get his. He is the ultimate pass-first point guard. He reminds me of Jason Kidd, but probably with a better offensive game, or a scoring game, or athleticism, or just a better ability to get his shot or get to the rack. But the guy's going to be a tremendous player. Along with Lonzo Ball, the summer camp featured Dennis Smith, Markelle Fultz before he got injured, and Jason Tatum, and there was some other standouts. Those was a few that stood out to me. John Collins, he stood out. I was so excited about the summer camp, the summer league, that a couple of friends of mine, we're discussing going next year for a Vegas game. Dennis Smith, he looks like he's going to be a baby Russell Westbrook. Now, to be a Russell Westbrook, it's going to take some years. But he has that aggression, that aggressiveness to get to the basket. He seems like he has no fear. This guy is jumping around like he's on a pogo stick or either a trampoline. And little did we know, he just came off of an ACL surgery. Speaking of Dennis Smith, as I listened to the press conference of the introduction of Scott Perry of the New York Knicks' new GM, the official announcement of Steve Mills being hired as the president of operation, one only wonders, why did the Knicks pass on Dennis Smith? What were they thinking of? As Scott Perry was being introduced, a lot of questions was coming at him and, of course, Steve Mills, and rightfully so. And one of the questions that was directed to Steve Mills was, if you had been in charge before the draft, would you have take Frank? He can only answer one answer, folks. Just one answer. And that is yes. I mean, imagine him saying, no, I would have took so-and-so. No, I would have took this player. No, I would have took that player. What would that do to the confidence of your draftee going into training camp in a couple of months? He would have been defeated before he can get started. Did you expect him to say anything other than that? Whether that's a good answer, great answer, bad answer, it was the only answer. Now, a good buddy of mine, I mentioned his name earlier, his name is Skip, that we talked the day of the draft, him and I. I remember him calling me up. He said, if you was Phil Jackson, who would you draft? I said, I'm going with Dennis Smith. He said, me too. I said, but Phil's going to take Frank. He said, why did you say that? I said, because that's just Phil being Phil. "12 hours later, New York Knicks drafted Frank. Unbelievable. You watch Dennis Smith, he's getting 10s for missed dunks at the Summer League. Unbelievable. This is the story of the New York Knicks. This is the story of the New York Knicks. It's one thing when you missed out on Steph Curry because you drafted the next slot. I mean, yeah, we can all sit around and say, why didn't you trade up? Why didn't you trade up? In this case, you didn't have to trade up. The guy was right there for the taking in your lap, and you chose to go with Frank. And now as Knicks fans, all we can hope for is that he is as good as Dennis Schroeder of the Atlanta Hawks. And Dennis Smith looks like a player that in 6 years, 5 to 6 years from now, is going to be battling Lonzo Ball in the Western Conference for starting point guard in the All-Star game. And in a weak East, where there's only about 3 point guards, Frank will probably never be mentioned. But let's hope he is. Because that's all we can do. It's just hope that he is. So we got Scott Perry. He has a decent resume. He was part of the run in Detroit when they went to 6 straight Eastern Conference Finals. He was also part of the brass that decided to pass on Carmelo and go with Milicic. But he was also part of the brass that decided to go on Tayshaun Prince, bring in a Rasheed Wallace. He had some brief stints in Orlando. He's come in Sacramento and did a heck of a job in his 3 months there, helping them win the draft. So this Scott Perry may just be a good signing. Might be someone who has a clue and knows what he's doing. Let's just hope that he's able to turn the Knicks around. As far as the Knicks go, there's one dark cloud over them, and I don't think it should be a dark cloud. I think it should be sunshine. And that's Carmelo Anthony. What do you do with Carmelo Anthony? Well, here's the thing. Regardless of who they hire, what their resume is, they're going to have to deal with the dubious task of what to do with Carmelo. Former president of operation, Phil Jackson, I believe, tried to tarnish and sabotage Carmelo. Whether he did it or not, intentionally, purposely, or whatever, for sure we know he definitely decreased his value. Carmelo's been a model citizen in New York. He's never asked to be out. I still don't think he asked to be out. I just think that he said, if you're going to trade me, these are the 2 teams I go to. And I think that, because you put it out there, he might have his feelings hurt. It's possible. So it appears that he is pushing that this trade gets done. I don't know. But I tell you what, I don't look at it as a black cloud. I look at it as a ray of sunshine. You have a young squad. You have a veteran that can help mentor. At the end of the year, his contract is up. He can always walk. Man, I wouldn't trade him just to trade him. I wouldn't trade him to bring back bad contracts when his contract is about to come off the books. He's also in his walk year. So in his walk year, he's 33 years old. He's probably looking for that one more mega contract. You might get the best of Carmelo come October, November. You just might get the best of Carmelo Anthony come October, November, December. Simply because he's looking for that mega payday. He's going to want a 4-year deal somewhere around $150 to $160 million. And he's not going to be able to get that if A, his value is down, and B, he doesn't play well. So again, if he comes to camp and he's in the Knicks uniform and he's looking at his future or his security, you're going to have a determined Carmelo Anthony. A one that might, with this roster and no triangle, and maybe Hornacek having the freedom to do what he wants, and if the Knicks can pull off a trade to get a point guard, the Knicks could be in the playoffs in the weekend East. Because you got to figure, ladies and gentlemen, you got to figure, Indiana is not a lock to get to the playoffs. Chicago is not a lock to get to the playoffs. Atlanta is not a lock to get to the playoffs. I have to think. There's 3 spots up for grab. Miami had a tremendous run last year. But at the same time, this was the same team that lost 13 in a row. So, do we know for sure which Miami team is going to show up next season? Even though they've just missed the playoffs, does it mean they will get in this time around? I mean, they had players that played well, but their players was on walk years. Dion Waiters has never played as well as he's done. James Johnson finally found a fit and excelled. But the question remains, can they do it again? It's no lock. I think Eric Spoelstra did his best coaching job ever. I never thought of him as a good coach, but I thought he was deserving to be mentioned as Coach of the Year. But can they duplicate that? That's the question, ladies and gentlemen. So, in the East, where you got Cleveland that's going to be there, Boston's going to be there, Washington's going to be there, Toronto's going to be there, and Washington is going to be there. I'm sorry, I mentioned Washington. Milwaukee's going to be there. That's just 5 spots. I would say Charlotte has a chance of being there. There's 2 spots up for grabs. So if you have a motivated Carmelo Anthony, who's coming in trying to get that last contract for 4 years that can take him till he's 38 years old, somewhere roughly between $35 and $40 million a year, and you're able to find a point guard, whether it's through trade or low budget free agent signing. I mean, I like to see the Knicks somehow or another pull off Courtney Lee for Eric Bledsoe. But somehow or another, able to find a point guard. I'll take Ty Lawson for $1.5 million. I believe the Knicks could make the playoffs. And I think also, here's the other bright spot about Carmelo Anthony, unless you just want him out of New York. If Carmelo Anthony plays well, because he's motivated not just to win, but he's motivated because he's looking to secure his future, and the Knicks ball out and make the playoffs, can they become attractive the following season? When you have some bigger names that are available for free agency. So it's just something to think about. So yeah, Steve Mills and Scott Perry, they clearly have their hands full. They have their hands full. They don't have much to work with, but they do have something to work with. And what they got to work with that's probably more valuable than anything on their roster is that they're in a weak East. And if they make the playoffs in their first year together, that would say a lot for the New York Brass. That would say a lot for the organization. That would give fans hope. Before I close, I do want to touch on the Dallas Cowboys. Love them or hate them, the Dallas Cowboys is worthy of news. Winning or losing, the Dallas Cowboys will always make headlines. Whether it's the players or the owner, the Dallas Cowboys will always make news. It's something about the star on that team. The Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys represent everything that's related to Westerns. Men that ride horses. Men that could be heroes or gangsters. But yet, they don a star on their helmet that will indicate or signals Hollywood. Whether they're good or bad, they're going to make the news. Jerry Jones, to me, could be looked upon as one of the great owners in the game. The one thing that I like about Jerry Jones is that he's not afraid to give someone an opportunity when others would not. He's not afraid to go out on a limb and sign a player that may have had a shaky background, some edge to him. Now, whatever his reason is for, he does it. But with that said, I have to question the one decision that he has and he keeps intact, and that's Jason Garrett. My thing is this. If you're going to give these players that type of opportunity and second chance, which I like to see you do, and I appreciate that you do, just because you hired them or find a spot for them on your roster doesn't mean that you're only getting a player. You're also getting a person. And if there's no rehab in place or therapy in place to condition the mind or condition the soul of the player, chances are the athlete that you're signing, you're going to get that same person that was troubled or checkered before. So I have to question, is Jason Garrett really the answer for head coach? Because what happens here is this. It's far too many times that a Dallas Cowboy player is in the news for the wrong reasons. Listen, I know these are men. I know these is big men. I know these is men with money, fame, street cred. I understand it and I get it. But at the end of the day, there's gotta be a limit to what goes on with these arrests and the behavior of these talented players. It's despicable that every year, and it doesn't matter if it's off season or in season, they are checkered with this behavior. Do they think because they wear a Cowboys uniform that they're invincible? I hope that's not the case. Cowboys, you have a promising future. I'm not a Cowboy fan. I'm a Jet fan and an Eagle fan. But you have a promising future. You have an owner that's willing to bring you players that he thinks that are committed to winning or can win or give you a better chance. He'll do what he does. But you guys got to be more accountable for your action. And Jason Garrett, step up, crack the whip. I know you can't give guys curfews, but let guys know you're not tolerating this. You got a bright future over there. The next 4 or 5 years or next 3 to 5 years, the Super Bowl could go through Dallas. Or the team that goes to the Super Bowl in the NFC may have to go through Dallas. set some boundaries among these players. Hey, that's going to do it for chopping it up with Ramel. But more importantly, as I mentioned earlier before the show started, this concludes the first season. It's been a wonderful season for me. It's been wonderful just chopping it up with you guys. I say that season 2 is going to begin during the football season. However, if some breaking news come across, I'll probably get in front of the cameras. But for now, I thank y'all. I love y'all. And I appreciate y'all. This is Chopping It Up with Ramel. No notes, straight from the throat. Y'all be good. I see you in season 2. Peace and blessings.